Hello and welcome and Merry Christmas. Obviously, this one went out after Christmas, so I hope everybody enjoyed their festive period and will enjoy the new year this weekend. So, this is this month's book to film adaptation. I'll be looking at Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. Now, it was released in 1937. It was adapted several times over the years, as is most Agatha Christie adaptations, but I'll be looking at the 2022 version. So I'll be looking at three things as normal: how good is the book, how good is the film, and how well does the film take from the book. There will be spoilers ahead when I start discussing the plot in its entirety, so please, if you haven't, I don't know how you haven't, but if you haven't seen or read or know anything about the plot of Death on the Nile, please watch the first bit with the book and the film recommendations, but don't go any further than that. So, first things first, the film. Now, I love, I know he's technically not, he doesn't look like the Poirot of the books, but honestly, I love the Poirot in the 2022. He is absolutely amazing as an actor, and he's great as a director. He's absolutely great. And I think the cast that they get together for the film is just phenomenal. And I really wanted to see it in the cinema, but unfortunately I didn't get that chance. So when it did come on Disney Plus, I was like, right, straight away, let's watch it. Because anyone that knows me knows I love a good murder mystery, and two, I love, a whodunit. And whodunits, I think, are a little bit sort of like, because you've got a murder mystery, then you've got a whodunit. And honestly, and I love Agatha Christie, so I was just sat there going, okay, let's go. And weirdly, before I even watched the 2022 version, I hadn't even read the book or watched any of the previous adaptations of Death on the Nile, so I didn't know that much about it. I'd read other books like Nine Cent to Paddington, and so on and so forth. Like, I've read other books by Agatha Christie, but for some reason the Death on the Nile one kind of just went past me. But the film was very enjoyable. I felt like it had a really good sort of like setting to it. Like the ensemble cast was amazing. Like, it's just the way that it follows, and I love the idea as well, as obviously you've got Jackie, who is trying to unsettle Lynette and Simon, because Simon was Jackie's fiance, who then went off with Lynette. They've married, they're on their honeymoon, and Jackie's going, I'm not going to let these guys be happy, and she follows them from place to place to place, and basically she's just sat there, and she doesn't overly threaten Lynette, but she's kind of sat there and making Lynette feel a little bit unsettled on her honeymoon and everything. And then obviously it goes from there. Now, it's not a big spoiler, so I will say it, but then obviously when Lynette is killed on board the riverboat as they're going down the Nile, it then kind of goes from there. And it's just, I love trying to figure out Agatha Christie, like, twist turns and who killed who and what went on where. And I got it, but not as early as I tend to get whodunits. So I kind of figured out, I was like, hang on a minute, that's how it works. And I think I got it literally a second before it was revealed. So it's not even like it was like, as soon as it happened, I went, it's this person and this person. But I was like, okay, I bet he's going to say it's these people. And as soon as Poirot did his amazing kind of, talk about who did it and how they got away with it, I was like, vindication. But the film was thoroughly enjoyable. Like, I've watched it several times since, and I love rewatching whodunits, because I love trying to figure out if I would have, like, because sometimes when you rewatch it, you go, I didn't notice that before. And honestly, give it a watch. It's on Disney Plus, but you can also obviously get it Blu-ray, DVD, whatever suits you. But watch it, because I thoroughly enjoyed it. So the film, it gets an 8 out of 10 from me. The only reason why it gets like less is because of one of the people that unfortunately gets killed in the film annoyed me because of the way they've set up this character. So I'm not going to say anything about it or who it is until obviously the spoilers later. But that's why it gets an 8 out of 10, because I feel like sometimes they were building up for something and then what actually happened makes no sense. So the book. Now, because I'd watched the film first, going into the book I knew who'd done it. But it was still, she is a phenomenal writer. She really is. Like, I love reading her works. And I don't know how her mind comes up with these plots. I really don't. Like, it's just so interesting to read, because even when you know who the killer is, you're reading these character descriptions, you're reading these interactions, you're reading all these things that brought all these characters together, and then Poirot comes on the scene, and he's very, very... One thing I would say, and I know I've said it on the previous one because I did Murder on the Orient Express the other year, is Poirot does annoy me a little bit in the book. So the reason that is because he's he's a really talented detective. He's very, very good at what he does. But like, he goes along and he's kind of figuring it out, but then he doesn't talk to anyone. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't, and then so like, and that's the same in like the book as well. Like, you're reading it, and he's like, "Oh, I've got an idea, Mon Cherie," or whatever, and I'm like, "Okay, so share it with the class." And he, and it's just, he'll figure out who it is, and then he'll play these games, and I'm just like, "Come on now, Poirot." But he is what he is, and I do love him for it. But I love the book. It's just skillfully written. Like, when you get to the conclusion of the book, you kind of sat there going, "Wow." And like, when you see the way that Poirot deals with the people or the person on who the killer is, and you see the way that he deals with, how it ends, and you're like, "Oh, right, okay." And it's got a completely lovely, interesting take on sort of like, how far would you go for love? And like, also, Lynette is so good in this book because she's this millionaire heiress that's gone away, and she's got everything that she wanted, and she's never been told no, and she's now dealing with a situation with Jackie coming on board and following them on the honeymoon that she can't deal with, that she can't throw money at, that she can't get sorted because technically everything's within the law. And you look at it, the way the other characters are interacting, and the little foibles and the flaws that get brought forward, and somehow it just adds to their character. Brilliantly written, as always. So it gets a 10 out of 10 from me, because honestly, Agatha Christie, I love the way she writes, and I love the way her mind works, and honestly, I would have loved to meet her. So now, spoilers ahead. So if you have not seen, read, or know anything about Death on the Nile, please do not continue with this narrative right now. Turn it off and come back to it later. Now, I know I say I discussed the plot in its entirety, but obviously I do realise that a lot of people can get bored a little bit quickly. So what I'll do is I'll just kind of give like the main salient points. So as I've said, it starts with Jackie and Simon. Jackie's begging Lynette to give Simon a job because she's madly in love. They're going to get married. And then Poirot comes across them in Egypt. And this is kind of in both. So Poirot then comes across them in Egypt. Now, in the book, he's just on holiday. In the film, he's actually hired by Bok, who you'll remember from Murder on the Orient Express. He comes across he's been hired by Bok's mum to look out for Bok, and he sees Bok, who brings him over to this wedding of Lynette and Simon. So obviously he goes, "Huh, okay, right." But Jackie has been following them around and making them feel unsettled. So we've got loads of different characters kind of then being pulled forward, and how they get pulled forward. So in the film, they're already established. We already know who they are. In the book, we get like little chapters about who each person is and how they've come to be on this holiday, on this boat, basically. And a lot of them are more related to Lynette than you think they would be. So in both, obviously Jackie's stalking Lynette, so Lynette reaches out to Poirot to help. And Poirot goes, "Look, there's nothing I can do. I can talk to Jackie." He talks to Jackie. Jackie decides that she's going to stay on doing what she's doing. And so Simon and Lynette are like, "Do you know what? We're just going to enjoy ourselves. We're just going to have fun." And then Lynette is killed. Now, what I would say is a lot of the characters, for some reason, the characters were changed quite a lot in the film. So like Mrs. Otterbourne and has a daughter in the book, whereas Mrs. Otterbourne is a jazz singer rather than a writer in the film, and it's her niece, and her niece is friends with Lynette. So all the different characters as well, like you've got, a friend of Lynette's who handles the affairs is now, an uncle of Lynette's who handles her affairs is now a friend. You've got in the book, this rough mouth socialist or whatever actually turns out to be Lynette's ex-fiance, but in the film, the ex-fiance is a doctor who is on board. So they've added characters, they've changed characters around, Bock isn't there in the book at all. He's not there. It's an old friend of Poirot's who's a colonel. So Lynette dies. They're trying to figure out who it is, how it's done, because obviously Jackie's shot Simon, and so Jackie has an alibi, Simon has an alibi, so who killed Lynette? But then Lynette's maid blackmails the killer. She then gets killed. Then Mrs. Otterbourne, who saw the killing of the maid, gets killed. And then it turns out that it was Jackie and Simon had concocted this together, because what Jackie had done is shot Simon with a like, he didn't even shoot him. He used some like nail varnish on a hanky to make it seem like he'd been shot, got everyone out, ran, killed Lynette, went back downstairs, and then shot himself in the leg for real. And so it's so bizarre, because there's so many, and like, so in both it kind of ends with Jackie and Simon dying. In the film, like, Poirot is just cold-hearted, like, he doesn't care, because Jackie killed his best friend Bock, and that's what I'm annoyed about, because Bock, it's like they were setting him up to be kind of like a psychic, that every now and then he'd like see Poirot and stuff, and he didn't. And I was like, huh. So when they killed him, I was like, well, this is gonna piss a Poirot off, and it did, and he got so annoyed, and he was like, and so he became almost cold-hearted. Whereas in the book, when Jackie confesses to him, because he's like, well, I know who did it, Simon rolls over because Simon's a weak-willed person. Jackie then confesses and goes, well, this is basically what happened, this is why I did it, and blah, 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 blah. And then as they're disembarking, Poirot, who knew that Jackie had a second gun, lets basically Jackie kill Simon and herself, because he's like, well, you know, love and everything, and what, this is better than the alternative, and like, you know. And I'm just like, wow, he's really considerate, he's really caring, like, he's a really nice human being. And this is why I'm really convinced, and this is why I got a little bit annoyed with the film, because the way the book ended was so much nicer in regards to like Poirot going, well, she loved him, she did everything she could, she was always in Lynette's shadow, and she loved him, and blah, 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 blah. Whereas in the book, in the film, he's like, good, glad, because he's a lot more cold-hearted, because his best friend's been killed. So there's a lot of changes, as I said, like the occupations of a lot of the characters, because in the book as well, like one of the characters is like someone that as soon as you throw a title around suddenly becomes your best friend, and is like, oh yes, blah, blah, blah. In the film, that's the godmother of Lynette. No relation whatsoever in the book. And it's just like, it's adding these relations and these conspiracies and things, and I don't know, part of me was like, do you know what, I don't know why they did it. Like, both are really good narratives, but I mean, they changed the names, they changed the victims. So like, Bock obviously dies in the film because he's about to spill who he saw killing the maid, whereas in the book it's Mrs. Otterbourne, who is an alcoholic, who sees the maid being killed and is about to spill and then gets killed herself. So it's like the murder victims are different as well, and at least they kept how Lynette was killed and who the killers were the same. So overall, the plot gets a 4 out of 10 from me, because although the main basis of who dies and who did it is the same, a lot of the characters have changed, which I think changes a little bit of the dynamics. But again, both narratives are very good in their own right. If you agree or disagree with anything that I've said, if I've missed anything out, please leave it below in the comments. Subscribe to my channel so you're alerted whenever a new video comes out. Thank you so much for your continued support. I know I've been going for about 3 years now, so heralding year 4, I think. I can't remember how many years I've been doing this, 2-3 years. It's been a long time. It's been a lot of book recommendations, so thank you so much for sitting with me. Thank you so much for watching my videos. And remember, as I said, I do film a lot of these videos in advance, so if there are any books that you'd like me to review, and please remember that over Christmas I will be given a lot of books. That's basically what the majority of my wish list is. So if there's any books you'd like me to read, any book to film adaptations you'd like me to do, let me know. I will add it to my ever-growing list, and I promise I will get to it as soon as I can. But thank you so much. Have a lovely new year, and remember to always keep it contento.